Hey guys, it's Leanne.
It's Lena. Welcome back to our channel. For this week, we wanted to talk about the topic of purpose, which is obviously very important for everyone as we are journeying towards purpose, and all of us are searching for our own purpose here on earth. Let's get into it.
Just reflecting back on the beginning of our faith journey early on as we began just starting to hear his voice more and more in like small whispers. He implanted into the both of us a dream to just be like social justice advocates and change makers for our city, and put that dream of wanting to eliminate poverty in our city, just because we both firmly believe that it's never in God's will that any of his children are living in lack. And so he really put a fire in us to try to do all what we could. We didn't know exactly how we would do it, but we just began taking those small incremental steps of faith towards using what we had to be able to invest in the community. So just in our own journey towards purpose, towards going after this dream that he gave us, we definitely see, looking back, why he never showed us the full picture of what we would have to go through in order to achieve this dream, because baby, it's definitely not what we expected.
As we talk about this, we wanted to bring up some scripture that we were inspired by as well, and how we saw alignment in that story with our own story as well. So we'll be reading from Genesis 37 about Joseph and him sharing his dream to his family and his brothers. So Genesis chapter 37 verse 5 says, "Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, 'Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright, and indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf.' And his brothers said to him, 'Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us?' So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed still another dream, and told it to his brothers, and said, 'Look, I have dreamed another dream. And this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me.' So he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, 'What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?' And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind."
So we see in this specific portion of Genesis chapter 37 that it was God who gave Joseph these dreams, so it wasn't really anything that Joseph came up with on his own. And so that's, I think, a key thing to note, that anytime that God has placed a call in your life, it's directly from him, so it's not anything you would have thought of on your own. And so he was shown that he would pretty much be ruler over a people, and that even his own family would bow down to him. And he innocently shared that he wasn't trying to be prideful about it, but obviously he kind of talked too much. I guess the point that we want to emphasize in reflecting on this portion of scripture, is that God only showed him this portion of the dream. He didn't necessarily show everything that he would have to go through and the process he'd have to go through. He only showed like pretty much the good of the dream, and that good, like pretty much his arrival and his entrance into living fully out this dream. And we want to talk about why God is intentional about only showing portions of your purpose and your dream. And so obviously in the dreams that he was sharing to his brothers, nothing in what God showed him actually showed him the actual process that he would have to go through. Major portions of his dream was left out, were the fact that his brothers would conspire to kill him, they would betray him, they would throw him in a pit, and they would sell him into slavery. Joseph going through that process, he obviously was completely crushed by the entire thing before he actually got into the position that he was always called to, which was to be a ruler over the people. What he went through looked nothing like the dream that God gave him. And I believe, and we both firmly believe, that God's really intentional about not showing any of those portions, just any of the process that you would have to go through in reaching your dreams. So in today's video, we really just break down what we've learned in our own journey of why God only shows us our purpose in pieces into a couple main points. So we'll get into that.
So for point number one, the reason why God gives our purpose in pieces and doesn't give us our full dream right away is because his ways are way higher than our own, and his thoughts are above our own. So even if he gave us everything and he laid out the whole plan, we wouldn't be able to comprehend it, and it would just be so hard for us to comprehend because whenever he has a calling on your life, it's always bigger than yourself. So for you to make an impact in the earth that goes beyond yourself, and so that's the main reason why he doesn't give us the full plan.
One of my personal prayers I always pray to God whenever I'm searching for his direction is for him to make it plain and make it clear, because I can be a little slow at times. So it's really important for me to get like clear instruction from him, and a lot of times he'll only like give one step at a time, because if he laid it all out, I just kind of be overwhelmed with knowing what to do first. So that's the main reason why he only shows a little bit at a time, so that we can just take that first step of faith, and then he'll lay out the rest of the steps afterwards.
And from our own personal experience, just like Joseph, he saw the end result of where he was going and who he was going to become, but he did not expect all of the heartache and the pain. And similarly, just as we felt called to make a change in our city, we did not expect to go through deception, the occult, and heartbreak. We talked about that in this book, which we've mentioned before in other videos. In our own journey of advocating for social justice and just being active in our community, and just really wanting to make a change for communities of color in general, we did not expect to be spiritually, mentally, and financially abused throughout that journey. So if we would have known all that, I would have been like, no, I'm not doing it, forget it.
That gets into our second point, where really he doesn't show us the fullness of the journey and the fullness of our purpose, because maybe we would run the opposite direction. We'd be like, oh, that's all that I have to go through. I'm good over here. I'm gonna just go this way. He's a good father that always wants his will and his purpose and his plan to be fulfilled in our lives. And so he's strategic in just not showing the painful parts of our life, because nobody wants to go through pain like that. He knows that. And so his plan never is to harm us, and it's always for our good. But there is always a process that we have to go through, and a lot of times pain is a necessary part of the process, so that we can just not only grow in maturity, but also, I believe the most important part is to grow in compassion. I think a big part of our own journey is being inspired by the life of Jesus, and how he didn't necessarily have to live among the people. Like, he could have stayed in heaven and just live in abundance and never have to go through anything that we went through. But he intentionally chose to come down here on earth to live with us, to truly understand us and the pain that we went through. And that made his ministry way more effective and has impact on the entire world thousands of years later.
And another main reason why God only shows us our purpose and our dream in pieces is because he wants us to learn how to trust in him and always come to him in everything that we pursue, to make sure that we involve him in our life, and just be able to really consult him and lean on him in the journey as well, because he never wants us to not need him and do anything without him, because he's the source of our calling and our purpose. And in order to fulfill your purpose here on earth, you need to be able to have that relationship and that intimacy with him, and allow him to guide you throughout the process.
I think out of all these points that we kind of laid out, I think the biggest reason for me, speaking from my personal experience, is maybe if he would have shown us anything we would have went through, I would definitely run far away from his plan and his purpose and his call.
That's the thing. The enemy doesn't want you to know your purpose, so he'll fight you tooth and nail so that you never reach it. He'll send all these battles and warfare to make you give up before you even reach where you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to be. So that's also another lesson that we learned just in our journey to purpose, is that on the way there, you'll definitely face some enemies.
I'm just grateful that from it all, he has healed and restored us, and I'm actually really grateful that we went through the process and went through what we went through, because it's definitely made, I can say personally, it's made me a much better person, and I feel like I can make an even greater impact because I can relate to others well because of just having that deep understanding and personal experience with pain and heartbreak. Like the saying goes, what the enemy meant for evil, God is using it for good. And we just definitely always want to be a source of encouragement to others. Any way we can do that, we are always really passionate about that. I guess the main point we want to drive home is to really encourage someone who may not know like the fullness of your purpose, and if God hasn't shown you the full picture, just to continue to trust in Him, and just to believe that if He hasn't shown you the full thing or the full details that you're asking Him for, that is actually for your good and for your benefit.
And the main thing is He wants you to be able to hold on to the purity of your dream and your calling and your purpose, because He doesn't want whatever process you'll go through or whatever obstacles that will come your way to prevent you from pursuing that purpose and that call in your life. So just hold on to the purity of it, the beauty of it, and the joy of it all, because it's really worth it.
Just be like Joseph and just cling tightly to your dream, and just take a lot of joy in the parts of the dream that He has shown you, and don't give up on your dreams. We hope that this message encourages somebody, and we will see you guys next time.